Here's two reasons why I haven't given up when it comes to Polkadot. Now, even though nothing I say is financial advice, what do I mean by this? Well, first of all, it may seem a little bit counterintuitive for me not to give up on it because when I take a look at, let's say, Polkadot, right? Or should I say its native token called DOT? Last month, it reached a new all time low, which in the grand scheme of things, again, how is that a good thing? That's the way you take a look at it. But actually, if I take a look at it from a dollar cost average standpoint of view, like it's not something I would necessarily be concerned about because, again, my intention is to dollar cost average. But here's the thing. Even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, actually, Polkadot, or should I say again, its native token called DOT, it surpassed its all-time low, or should I say the last all-time low before that, which it achieved back in 2020. So again, Polkadot in 2025 basically surpassed a level in which we last time saw back in 2020, which may seem again a little bit counterintuitive, but if I'm a fan of the project, that's just the way I take a look at it. Now, the other day, before I continue on any further, right, someone was talking about my shirt and they thought that this part was a tie. And I was like, what? Again, it's just me laying a shirt. I get why it looks like a tie though. But yeah, besides that point, the way you take a look at it is that, should I just button it up? I don't know, but I'm just saying. When it comes to something like, again, Polkadot, the way you take a look at it is that when it comes to seeing something like that, if my intention is to dollar cost average, it's not something I would mind. But then if my intention is to exit, of course I would mind because how is that a good feeling? It reached a new all-time low. But I'm saying when it comes to DOT, hypothetically at $50, we are around 20 times lower than that, which at that point, actually, the market cap considering current circulating supply would be around 80 billion, which again, we're still very far away from that. But in my perspective, the way to take a look at it is that even though the last time I saw DOT at around $50 was back in 2021, the way I view it is that actually, when I take a look at, for instance, Polkadot 2.0, which seems to be a pretty okay narrative. It's not as big as what it could be because there is no altcoin season and all this type of stuff. But it's actually a pretty groundbreaking achievement, I think, when it comes to something like Polkadot. It's just not really talked about that much. But during an altcoin season, it could be a little bit different. That's the way to take a look at it. Now, even besides that as well, I get it. Again, $50, we're around 20 times lower than that. But at the same time, Bitcoin is slightly over 3 times lower than 300 grand. Again, just slightly over 3 times lower. 300 grand is never something it's achieved before ever in its history. If I take a look at something like, let's say DOT, again, as of right now, what is around $2, right? $2.30, around that range. Like just back in December of 2024, it was around $10.50. So what? We're talking about we're around 4 times lower than that. Or should I say over 4 times lower, but I'm saying when it comes to something like that though, like again, we just saw that back in December. Bitcoin going to 300 grand over 3 times lower it is right now. Again, compared to that, it's never reached that before ever. So for DOT basically to go back to where it once was back in December of 2024, like that's not a groundbreaking record at all, actually, when it comes to DOT. And that was not even during an altcoin season. So what could it do during an altcoin season? Who knows? But actually at that time, it was around 5 times lower than $50. So yeah, that's just the way to take a look at it. And again, that was even without an altcoin season. That's just my perspective. Now, the thing is this. I could easily give up though when it comes to Polkadot. I mean, no one is telling me to do this. And even if someone told me to like believe in this or something like that, at the end of the day, I'm making my own decision, right? When it comes to this, like it is what it is. That's the way to take a look at it. But I just haven't given up just because I still like the project. I mean, DOT allegedly has over 1 million holders, which is pretty, I think, impressive considering how it's not really done anything actually after that 2021 altcoin season in the grand scheme of things, right? We've seen moments of brilliance. Like for instance, we saw kind of that pretty okay, recovery a little bit, I would say, back in, April of 2024. Then we saw it again in December of 2024. Or should I say, actually, yeah, it was kind of nearing the end of November, beginning of December, around that range. So when I take a look at something like Polkadot, I mean, it hasn't really done much, but for how it hasn't really done much in basically around 4 years at this point, the amount of holders, for whatever reason, is still holding up pretty okay. So this is the way I take a look at Polkadot as a project that sure hasn't really done the best, but in terms of the conviction, right, in terms of just the amount of holders, it seems like there's a lot. So yeah, I just haven't given up. Now, the thing is, I cannot control Polkadot in any way. I cannot control the market in any way. Keep in mind, there's over 600 million owners within this space as of right now. I'm not talking about Polkadot, right? I'm talking about just this space overall. In the peak of the 2021 bull run, there was around 300 million owners within this space. Me, I'm just one person. How can I do anything about this space? The only thing I can do is just control myself and stay patient, let alone when it comes to DOT. Again, there's over 1 million holders. I'm just one individual. Like, what can I do when it comes to that? The only thing I can do is just wait and stay patient. That's about it. Now, I am not telling anyone to do anything, but this is just personally what I'm doing. Now, why am I waiting? It's because, again, I still like the fundamentals of Polkadot, and I don't think I've seen an altcoin season. Now, what are the fundamentals of Polkadot, in case someone may be wondering? Well, the way I take a look at it is this. If I were to put it quite simply, Polkadot is trying to connect blockchains together. It's focused on something called interoperability. Now, the thing is, people might be thinking, okay, don't a lot of blockchains have that capability? Well, not necessarily in every single case, because even if I take a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, they allegedly can't freely send data and value to each other, which in that case, they do lack interoperability. Now, there's many instances of that, but Polkadot, again, is basically trying to connect blockchains together. It's focused on interoperability. I mean, it's not that, I think, like, complicated, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, but that's just the way to take a look at it, which I don't think is a bad thing, though, because if a project is too difficult for me to understand, how can I even be a fan of the project? That's the way to take a look at it. And again, Polkadot 2.0, a lot of people don't really care about that, but I think it's pretty interesting considering just sort of how they even care about that at a time like what we're seeing as of right now. Now, not to mention, sometimes people kind of ignore the aspect of Kusama when it comes to Polkadot, which is its canary network. Basically, projects that want to launch on Polkadot, a lot of them I see do start off with Kusama, then later on they move on to Polkadot. Why do they do that? Well, it's because Kusama, right? Supposedly, it's a little bit easier to make changes on as well, and it's not as expensive as, like, just starting up with like Polkadot straight away. So maybe it is, in some cases, to a developer's perspective, it seems like more of a easier landing as opposed to just jumping straight on when it comes to something like Polkadot. Again, if we take a look at Kusama, supposedly it's more economical, right, in terms of renting building space when compared to something like Polkadot. So also hypothetically, that could probably be a reason why a lot of these projects do start off with Kusama before moving on to Polkadot, but they don't necessarily have to do that, by the way. Like, we take a look at Moonriver, for instance. It's doing its thing on Kusama. Now, I mean, is Moonriver doing the best? Absolutely not. But I'm saying, like, yeah, that's on Kusama, so I didn't really have to, like, have this requirement that, oh, every project has to go to Polkadot later. No, I mean, it doesn't seem like that to me, at least. This is from my understanding, but I'm just saying. When it comes to Polkadot, a lot of things are kind of a little bit depending on it, right? We take a look at, for instance, Moonbeam, which is on Polkadot, but then the thing is, Moonriver, which is on Kusama. Kusama is Polkadot's canary network, but the thing is, Moonriver is the canary network to something like Moonbeam. So then, again, Moonriver, canary network to Moonbeam, that's relying on Polkadot. Kusama, the canary network to Polkadot, that's relying on Polkadot. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of things are kind of, I think, depending on it. But, I just don't think I've seen altcoin season, so it's a little bit tough for me to, I guess, know what it could really be, for instance. Because it's like, for instance, as well, if I have not finished watching a movie, how will I know how the movie really is? Maybe in the initial thing, I could know the vibe of it, but I need to finish the movie in order to know what it really is. You know what I mean? Then I can kind of give my rating and stuff like that, or evaluate it, right? Think about whether I like it or not. But yeah, that's just the way to take a look at it. So I'm just still staying patient, holding, and just waiting. And those are two reasons why I haven't given up when it comes to Polkadot. I just don't think I've seen an altcoin season. Also, I still like the fundamentals. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. However, nothing I say is financial advice. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. I just want to say thank you for watching. I hope you'll have a nice day. It's Bonnie the Captain, and I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.